We set?
Yeah.
Sure.
Let's do it.
This happening? We are rolling. We've been sitting here talking for an hour and decided, hey, we should probably go ahead and just turn this into a podcast.
We should produce some mediocre internet content since we're here.
Wait a minute. When did we move up to mediocre?
Hey, well,
I was wondering that too. I just didn't want to say
We've made it to the upper middle part of the very bottom.
Yeah.
To quote Webb Wilder.
Which puts us in the upper 90 percentile of YouTube videos.
Cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers. Good to be back. Doing a real podcast. Long distance cheers to you back there, Mike. Thanks for sitting in the jump seat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I was going to do
trade
this.
seats, let me know, Mike.
I was going to set this up to do live, and you guys are like, why don't we just show up and do it? And
yeah.
Like, that's cool. I could do that.
So,
I haven't done that in a while.
It's good to know you're feeling better after your little adventure. I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, that was horrible. We've been kind of behind on the podcast thing. Number one, without people being able to come in, we got to shoot live, and I hate that. I actually got myself on camera falling out of a chair.
Nice.
So I had to run back and reset a router and ran in. I was wearing those super thin, those nylon fishing shorts, those quick dry shorts, and I sat down and went straight. And then 2 days later, I did it while I was playing Elite.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I got up to go to the bathroom, and I came back, and I had my headset on and all, my VR. And when I went under, I managed to catch the desk. So I was like, shooting through a submarine hatch under the desk. I'm laying there going, why the hell did I do that? So I'm not allowed to wear those pants on.
Well, I saw when you fell off the chair when it happened. And that was...
Yeah, I shot the chair out from under my butt like a watermelon seed. Just boom, went up and hit the table. I went straight down. That's when we did the Permian Basin Archery Association. Real cool guys. And then we had hell with internet connections. That's been the biggest problem.
You've had with doing such horrible luck lately with your internet.
Sudden link. And then we dealt with that. And then my voice came and went. They fixed that. And then I wound up in the hospital again. So that was weird. Hospitals during the whole COVID thing are super weird. But no, a couple of people asked about, are we ever going to talk about paranormal shit again? And nothing's happened. It's happened. I actually had an out-of-body experience.
This is what one of the things I was not going to allow this podcast to go by without asking about.
Yeah. So here's what happened. I got, so I changed chemo, and I've been on the same chemo for about 2 weeks. And typically the shittiness of chemo is cumulative, right? So the longer you're on it, the worse you feel. And I started feeling really bad. But it was all chemo stuff. It's just typical of how you feel. And I went to Houston on a Wednesday, got my chemo, my body temperature, and all was fine. My blood work looked perfect. Like I'm not even technically immune deficient. Like my blood work looks that normal in the middle of all this.
Wow.
So came home and started feeling worse and worse. And I started getting the whole lightheaded when you stand up thing, right? Like I've had it before. It's either low blood pressure or low red count for some reason. You're just not oxygenating. You stand up and you get lightheaded. And I only about 5 years ago on the first round of chemo, blacked out once. Got up in the middle of the night to pee, and I was like, whoa, better sit down. And I started feeling that again. What I was not aware of, I had gotten a urinary tract infection that because of the way my surgeries rearranged my innards, I didn't feel it. So I didn't feel the pain and all that stuff because of the nerve damage. But I was feeling the effects, which I thought was chemo. One of the things, after a while, it went septic. It actually got into my bloodstream.
Yeah.
So I have sepsis, which produced such a load that dropped the red cells and all that stuff. And we were watching a movie, my wife and I, and she's in there watching the movie, and I get up to go get a drink, and I'm standing at the counter, and I go, whoa, I feel this coming on. So I kind of leaned on the counter, and I thought, that's not enough. I might pass out. I better. So I thought, I'll just sit down. And then I thought, maybe I should lay down because this isn't getting better, right? And that's it. I'm out. And apparently, not only was I passing out, I went into a seizure, which I've never had a seizure before in my life.
That is a hell of an infection.
Yeah.
Then.
So I was apparently making noise, couldn't breathe, was gurgling or whatever. Of course, scared the shit out of my wife. I still feel horrible about that. And I don't remember all of it. When I came to, first thing I saw, super bright white light, like everything, like looking into a softbox.
Mm-hmm.
Faded in to me laying in the kitchen, and the first thing I thought was, I thought I was laying in a different part of the kitchen. And I mean, it was almost like a pan view. And I could hear my wife just frantic, and I couldn't talk yet. I don't want to tell her, hey, I'm coming around, I'll be all right. I felt perfectly relaxed and comfortable. The next thing I felt was the coolness of the tile. Like, oh yeah, man, this is great. And as she came in, I could even hear, she was on 911 with the dispatcher, and I could hear the dispatcher and her talking.
Holy crap. So you took an ambulance ride to the emergency room?
No, you didn't take one.
Okay.
Nicole came up and knelt down by me because I'd opened my eyes. And as I started opening my eyes, it's like the camera just panned in back to my view to Nicole. And as soon as I could talk again, I told her, hey, I said, I can get to the car. Don't take an ambulance. We're like 2 miles away. I said, I just passed out. It'll be cool. So everything kind of calmed down. It happened a couple more times. And it happened as I was going into the ER. They put me in a wheelchair. Boom, and I went out and seized up. And next thing I know, I'm on a gurney.
Oh.
And they were hauling me in, and I came to. And this guy's asking me the date. And I told him, I don't know the date, not because I had a seizure. It's because I'm retired. I have no idea. I mean, can you move on to your next question? Because
ask me my birthday.
Yeah, let's go with that. I can handle.
Ask me what time Jeopardy comes on.
5:30.
Yeah.
No, 4:30. Sorry.
I can tell you when it's time to feed the dog.
COVID-19. I know Jeopardy comes on at 4:30.
Ask me what Walt said to Jesse on episode.
Yeah. I can handle that.
Wow, man.
But I did get the COVID test because they said after the first test, they're like, you've got an infection. There's something going on with you. And so I got the foot-long swab up the nose.
Yeah,
and
Joe Rogan was talking about how bad that sucks and how much it hurts.
Yeah, I've had an NG tube before, that goes to the nose, and they put it in while I was wide awake after some surgery. It was absolutely nothing like that. It wasn't fun, but
okay,
it's not that big of a deal. I will say this: they put me in a room, put me on antibiotics. We have a really cool, really solid infectious disease team here in Midland. They did a great job, and I had to do IV antibiotics for 5 days. I was in the hospital for 5, and then I did like 5 more days of it when I got out. And of course, I already had the chemo port, so that was a breeze, man. I just went in for 30 minutes.
Wow.
And got out of the hospital, did that, went right back to Houston, and blood works normal again. Everything's fine. Houston looked me over and they go, yep, we'll hit you with chemo. So I had that, and I feel a hell of a lot better. So that was a weird.
Well, I wanted to hear about that because there have been several, out of body near, I guess, I don't want to say near death. I hesitate to say that, but with the case of one of my wife's uncles, that was the case. He went in for a surgery. It was a pretty serious surgery. I don't remember the details. I'll have to ask my wife at some point about the details. But the part that has always stuck with me was the fact that he died on the operating room table, and they were able to bring him back after a certain amount of time. And when he came back to and started getting better, he started asking questions about conversations that the family was having in the waiting room while he was clinically dead. Hey, by the way, you were talking about blah, blah, blah. Whatever happened with that? And they were like, how did you know I was talking about that? I was in the waiting room with you. I was listening to all of you. And he told everybody what their conversations were and everything they had talked about. And so that's why I wanted to hear what yours was like. I've heard different out-of-body experiences everybody has. If you're going to have one, I guess, no two are identical, but that's the one that's most striking and that is just absolute lore throughout Sharon's family, that that story has carried on for years and years and years about him doing that. And a lot of the people who were around for that, they're no longer with us. But I remember when Sharon and I first started going out in 1987, that was one of the first big stories I heard about, the history of her family. So anyway, your out of body portion of that seems to kind of match up.
That was, the rest of it, the other couple of times it happened, it was like, and I've been knocked out before training, I got punched and knocked out a couple of times. And it was like that going out, but the coming back was a lot different. I don't know if it's, I don't know how much, we're only talking a few seconds. And apparently I don't breathe well. Like you stiffen up. Nicole said I stiffened up. Yeah. It was like gurgling, like not breathing correctly. But yeah, it was weird, but I'm telling you, man, when people talk about that feeling of peace and all. Yeah. And
I've heard that in a lot of other stories.
It was exactly like that, man.
Perfect comfort, perfect peace. Like
best I'd felt, in a while. And I was talking to, this guy Rick, he's got a car service that I use in Houston when I go from the airport to the hospital. And he had an uncle that developed a seizure disorder kind of late in life, I think. And he said he had one and he went through that whole thing. And he said, man, if that's what dying is like, I'm set. Because man, that was great. Yeah. And it was, and it was weird because as I came to and got more with it, I could feel all the symptoms again. The fatigue and the weirdness and all. Yeah,
a spiritual person might say it was your soul reconnecting to your body, and all the conduit, all the Molex connectors were being plugged back in.
There wasn't a spiritual, religious into it. It just
hit me with one of those, Cliff.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
just came to. Yeah,
that's really that's. I don't know. Interesting. Yeah. Now here's what I want the viewers to understand. Yeah, that'd be great. Here's what I want the viewers to understand. The night all this happens, we haven't heard from Matt in, I don't know, I hadn't heard from him in maybe a day or 2 days.
Yeah.
I can't remember. We had talked a day or two before. And so on our little secret Facebook I Am group, Matt says, hey, faggots, just wanted to let you know I'm in the emergency room. Looks like I have some kind of infection. I'll let you know. So he totally underplayed. He didn't, he didn't include the whole part about Nicole freaking out and having to call 911 and having an out-of-body experience. And I should have known there was more to it when you let us know. And so I did my normal thing about what can I do for you right now? How's the dog? Can I go to the house?
As I had started feeling shittier, I thought, I'll drink water, and there's just kind of a trench with chemo. Mm-hmm. You get your chemo, and then you feel shitty, and then you come out. Mm-hmm. So I'm just drinking water, trying to hang out, and get through the trench. When it turns out it wasn't that.
Right.
So everything was cool, and I'm sitting in there waiting, and my son called me. Mm-hmm. Now I couldn't talk at the time, because they were about to jab me or something. And Nicole was on the phone with somebody. And I thought, I know a lot of people in medicine, a lot of people in ER. Somebody told my kid. And so I thought I'm gonna start letting everybody know, and that's why I told you guys. And then again, like MD Anderson, there were no visitors.
Yeah, I knew we wouldn't be able to come up there and visit you.
Yeah, I just sat in there.
That's why I asked you if there was anything I could do at the house or if anything needed to be taken care of or whatever, because I knew there was no way they were going to let us in the hospital. And, I would have come. I mean, at this point, and we can get into this thing about the status of what's happening with COVID-19, but I would have been up there in a second. I'm not even really worried about it at this point. But, so anyway, I'm glad you're okay.
It was weird, yeah, thanks.
This is, and again, for those of you watching and listening, this is the first time that we've all gotten together since before all that happened. So,
It's
so you
weird.
You look good. You sound good. You seem like you feel good.
I'm rashed up really bad from the chemo, but that's really it. I mean, I'm still a little weak, but I'm picking up more and more every day. I'll mowed the backyard today and stuff like that. But it's and that's not something to screw with.
No, sepsis. as the texts became longer and you had more information, I kept thinking, man, what in the world is wrong with him? And then you found out you had a seizure, and I'm asking my wife all this, who she worked for state health for a long time in birth defects, and she did a lot of different things in state health, and I'm asking her questions. And then finally you drop the bomb. Oh, I'm septic.
Yeah.
And Sharon was like, holy shit, he's septic. And then she starts asking me all these questions, and I don't know the answers. Yeah. Like, well, what is he doing? I don't know.
Well, it's
like, let me see the messages. Okay, well, it's nothing. It's us calling each other homos.
Yeah.
It's what we do.
It's a bunch of dick jokes, dick joke. Oh, fart joke, dick joke.
So anyway.
Are you guys 14 years old, really?
Pretty much, yeah.
So yeah,
I am grouped with Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah, evidently I was in, pretty dire situation and was lucky. But the way they explained it is just the load of the body's attempt to heal something that strong.
Oh yeah.
On top of the chemo, which they kind of theorized, the doctor kind of theorized that some of the effects of the trial drugs I'm on may have made sepsis a little more of a possibility. So, but I didn't have COVID. That was good.
Well, I'm just glad you snapped back from it and the antibiotics worked. The one thing, and I don't want to get dark in this conversation. In fact, we can change the subject. But when you said that you had sepsis, I went back to, I cared for my grandmother when she passed, until she passed. The last 3 months of her life, it was me making three 240-mile trips a week to go take care of her in hospital and nursing home and all that. And what finally got her was sepsis. And when she got sepsis, they said, you might want to go ahead and give us permission to not treat this. And, and so... it was tough
scary
for me. I had to make the final decision to let her go, and so that has always stuck with me. And I know people get sepsis in different ways and for different reasons. But anyway, just suffice it to say, I didn't sleep a wink that night while you were in the hospital. I was just laying in bed hoping you would be okay all night. So I'm glad you are.
Yeah, it wasn't fun. The fever went off and on for a couple of days, and once they've already given you something and your fever goes up, they pack you in ice. That's what they do, and that was not fun with ice in your crotch and your armpits, and so anyway, got through all that, and I'm still kicking. Speaking of COVID, I got to show something.
All right,
my friend Grace Buchanan, she is the fencing coach. Corpus Christi's club made me a mask.
Yeah.
The High Plains fencing team.
That is almost cool for a mask.
Yeah.
For a COVID mask.
Yeah. So
very nicely done.
It is.
And she made one for my wife, and I couldn't find it. And it's like purple and sequined and all like that. So yeah, because you got to wear them in the hospitals,
right?
So they won't let you in, and you have to wear them on United Airlines.
Oh, really?
But if you don't wear it, nobody cares. Because I noticed a few people that apparently are not into masks, and they just didn't say anything. They're just flying without a mask on. So what are you going to do, man?
Yeah, no doubt.
So, yeah, aren't we going to a new COVID quarantine level in Midland?
I don't know.
Tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow?
I
yes.
haven't been paying attention to any of the... I mean, I've been completely out of it for the last 2 weeks. So
Yeah.
So tomorrow we go to 50% on everything. So for those of you who don't know, Texas reopened its economy. We were never locked down or shelter in place. That would not work in Texas, and I think the Texas government knew it. So we were basically physical distancing, wearing masks, all of that sort of thing, and a bunch of businesses closed. All bars and restaurants, which affected one of my businesses very badly, brewing beer, because all the bars are still closed. The restaurants have reopened. We're at 25% occupancy on reopening of certain businesses. And then tomorrow, I think it is, we go to 50%.
Okay.
And then they're going to make a judgment call in the next week or so on whether or not bars and taverns can reopen, which will help us tremendously. We brewed today. I brewed Friday by myself. I brewed our American wheat beer, and then today Aaron and I brewed our Christmas beer for December, and it's going to be the highest alcohol, biggest barley wine we've ever made. It's going to be awesome.
Oh, it's good stuff.
So things are in my world are starting to crank back up. I got one of my multimedia creative clients back. One went out of business. One's a couple I haven't heard from, so who knows what's going to happen with that. The brewery, we have lost customers. One of our biggest customers, the beer garden here in between.
Yeah, they just closed the door.
We lost them.
That's what I was going to ask about, just how you guys were kind of, if you want to talk about it or if you don't want to talk about
it. No,
I
can talk about it. I mean, I'll tell you what I can tell you and won't tell you what I can't. But yeah, the Tilted Kilt made the announcement. It was either today or yesterday that they're closing. They were one of our clients. So we've lost two of our clients that bought our beer on a regular basis, and hopefully we don't lose any more. So we're gradually stepping things back up and just keeping our vessels full and planning. We're planning for the future. This Christmas beer is going to be barrel aged, so we need to brew it now so we can put it in barrels for several months.
Right.
And same thing we're going to do another barrel aged beer the end of this week. So we're planning for the future and for everything to come back, and things are ramping back up and sales are going back up. So things are looking brighter. The thing I'm most hopeful about or thankful for at this point is that we reopened Texas for 2 weeks and that we haven't seen a spike in cases.
Yeah.
Or at least not a significant one. Not significant enough to where it perked my ears up.
Well, the number of cases went up, but the testing also went way up.
Okay, so there you go.
When the testing goes up,
the cases
are going to go up. So that's pretty obvious to even
so that
layman.
counts asymptomatic cases and all too, right?
Yeah.
When they do that.
Yeah.
So
I guess I don't know if they're antibody tests or not. I'd like to get my hands on the antibody test that Joe Rogan is using with all his guests on his podcast. He's given antibody tests to everybody who comes on the show, just as a courtesy to let them know whether or not they have the antibodies. And the vast majority of the people he's got coming onto his podcasts, they all have the antibodies. They've all been exposed to it and had no symptoms, and life marched on for them. So I'm real curious. I'd be curious to see how many of us. You had the test.
Yeah.
You don't have the antibodies. Well, they didn't give you an antibody test.
I don't think I had the antibody test. It wasn't. I don't know which one it was. I don't know which one they administered.
Okay.
Well, since you had an infection, they were probably looking for a virus, I would suspect.
Yeah.
Not an antibody.
Not antibodies. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good point. So,
but again, I'm no doctor.
Yeah.
I don't know how this works.
We could, all four of us could have had it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Strange times. I don't want to underplay it, but at this point, you have to. You got to get things moving.
I'm kind of like Mike. I kind of unplugged because I got my own problems,
mm-hmm.
and I tried to understand it. And Cliff and I had a conversation on Messenger or something that I'm in the medical world. I don't want to be, but I'm there.
Yeah.
So I'm around people that know a lot about it, and they were freaking out because they're in contact with other docs, and it was worse than being reported in some places, and there was a lot of freaking out. And I don't know. It's now you don't know what to believe.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing that's most frustrating. It's been politicized at this point.
Yeah, everybody's filtering it.
Right.
Well, here's I read a pundit was talking about this, but he said once a subject gets politicized, the problem is what that does is that locks you into a position.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That once it has a political part, then if new information comes along, you can't change your position. You're locked in.
Right.
And that is exactly the opposite of what we need to be doing. Everybody talks about we should listen to the scientists. Well, scientists change their minds all the time because they get new information.
Yeah,
right.
Science is more often wrong than it is right. That's what I get about people say. I believe in science. I only believe in science. Well, you believe in something that's wrong a lot.
A lot, yeah. But the only advantage you have really with science is that you are willing to change your position,
and that should
when you get new information. politics doesn't work that way.
Well, here's what got me when I'm on the airplane, and when you're online, and you buy your ticket, it says you got to wear a mask on the airplane, and then you get on the airplane, and they tell you before you get on the airplane, say if you don't have one, we'll give you one, and then you get on the airplane, they say once you're on board, you got to wear it, and again, it's been a part of my life since this shit started, to be in the hospital. And these guys are like, screw it, no mask. Or, they just wear it around their neck or something like that. And I didn't know how to feel about that. Because I remember people saying, there was a thing, masks don't work. And here's why, and here's blah, blah,
then
blah.
Then how come when you go get surgery, the doctor wears a mask?
And people will have a political answer for that.
Yeah.
And here's where my brain stuck is one time my white count dropped low, long time ago, due to chemo. It was just eating my white count. And they said, look, we don't want to put you on Neulasta yet because that's going to give you a whole bunch of other symptoms. But he said, worst case, before you finish this round, you may have to wear a mask when you go out. Just kind of help protect you from shit. You're more susceptible. Way before COVID, they worked. Now they don't. And now I see on Facebook that now mask is a political statement.
Dude, I'll tell you right now, I've checked out of Facebook. I have checked out of the news feed of Facebook because me, I'm politically homeless like you are. Yeah. I have a lot of friends who are on the left and who are liberal. I'm liberal on a lot of things. I have a lot of friends who are conservative and libertarian. I'm mainly libertarian. I have some conservative leanings too. So I span that gamut, and I don't unfollow my friends or mute my friends or snooze them or anything like that. And it's just left, right, and center. The Facebook newsfeed is a shit show right now, and I am done with it. All right, I'm getting all worked up. I'm sorry.
That was my deal.
Take it easy.
I'm sorry.
Well, to me, it's like the mask thing, and I thought, if I'm out in public, what's it going to hurt? Right. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't. No, it does not filter a virus. It filters the people juice that carries it.
Yeah,
that's the whole. That's the whole thing. But I don't know.
I tell you what, I don't like the criticism. Like I see people being criticized wearing a mask in public. If somebody you got criticized for wearing a mask, we probably shouldn't say where or when it happened, but we went to go do a certain thing.
Oh yeah,
and you were wearing a mask, and one of the guys that was there assisting us said. He made fun of you for wearing a mask.
Yeah. Well, and I explained to him, you quarantine at home, and I had to ride in a vehicle with you, and I'm in Houston every 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. I'm in a big city. I'm in a hospital full of people with immune systems, and they have active COVID cases at MD Anderson. They told me,
right?
I'm going to wear one just to keep my snot on board and not infect my friends.
And the only reason he was doing that is because it was for political reasons. It doesn't matter if Matt's wearing a mask or not. It doesn't affect him one way or another. He was making fun of you for political reasons. Yeah. He was trying to make a political statement by razzing you. He didn't know what he was talking about.
I think the Japanese have had this figured out for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
Because it's not in Japan.
Grab me a Corona.
In Japan, it's not unusual for somebody to wear a mask. If they're sick, if they feel like if they feel like they're could possibly cough or sneeze in public, they wear a mask. Mm-hmm. And nobody says anything about it. It's no big deal.
It's normal.
It's just the way it is.
They also have the lowest sick time consumption of any nation.
And I think they've really got this figured out as far as that goes.
Yeah.
And they had that figured out a long time before this virus came along.
I'm a libertarian, baby. I believe in freedom. If you want to wear a mask, one on your butt, one on your face, one on each shoulder, like Lyle Alzado, I mean, you do what you do, man. I'm not going to make fun of you for doing that. Do whatever you feel most comfortable with. And that's what it comes down to is we have to, at this point, we have to take individual responsibility for what we think is in our best interest and figure out a way to go on with life. We have to make money. We have to make a living. We have to have economy. We have to have all those things. It's worse to not have it. Mike Rowe did a really excellent little snippet on the Rubin Report talking about how safety should be third, not first. Because when you put safety first, it compromises everything humans need in their lives to be happy and content and productive. And so, anyway, I've probably ranted.
There is no safety. There is no safe.
Safety is the absence of risk. That does not exist.
It's impossible to be safe.
Right.
We're not safe right now.
Right.
We could be hit by a freaking meteorite.
That's how I want to go.
Dude, that would be badass.
I want
we
my
all
death.
be buried, all four of us next to one another, all with meteorites engraved on our.
Dude,
I wanted to. The news around the world will be. Thank God those guys aren't podcasting anymore.
Please delete the channel now.
God has spoken. Podcast is no more.
Yeah, I want my demise to involve strippers and a meteor, like at the same time. That's yeah. Like they had to count the number of the giant transparent stripper heels and divide them by 2 to figure out how many strippers were at the party when the meteor hit us. Something like that. When I saw those dudes on the airplane, that obviously for political reasons, it couldn't be anything else. Mm-hmm. I thought, can we just humor?
Well,
people, and the airlines have asked you to. It's not that big of a deal.
Why not? It seems like the first casualty of this whole thing is common sense. Okay, now look, riding on an airplane is like riding an elevator with 150 people for 2 hours. Mm-hmm. Okay, if any place in the world needs a freaking mask, it's an airplane.
Yeah.
But at the same time, screaming at somebody who's jogging past your house and not wearing a mask is stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, if Matt and I are riding in my truck together for an hour, I wore a mask that day.
Yeah.
And we both wore masks. We didn't care how we looked driving down the road. But I don't need to wear a mask while I'm out jogging on the Lee High School jogging track.
Yeah.
I'm not near anybody and the wind's blowing 30 miles an hour. It doesn't matter. Yeah. So it's once again, there's no gray area. We can't in politics. We can't have the gray area. That's not allowed in politics.
I'm telling you, the first casualty was common sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it would be nice, but people aren't going to do it. I mean, it's going to be
right.
They're just going to do what they're going to do. Oh, wow. I will tell you, I saw some cool technology. When you walk into MD Anderson, first thing they ask you is if you're a patient, and if you're not, they tell you get out, go away.
Okay.
And
that happened to me this week. I was not the patient. I was told to leave.
Yeah, get out. Yeah. Anyway, what they normally do is they put the little temperature sensor on your forehead, the little laser, and then they send you to a booth and they ask you questions, where you've been, if you've been tested, and blah, blah, blah. If everything's cool, they give you your first wristband of the day, and then you go to where you're going, and you get your second one, and they check everything everywhere you go. And I walked in. And this lady said, they just opened those 2 booths over there, so go to that one. There's no line. And I go talk to the dude. And he asked me the questions, and I answer them all. And he goes, all right, there you go. And I go, hey, man, nobody checked my temperature. And he goes, we got the new camera. We checked it when you came in.
Son of a
I said, he said, go over there and check it out. It's really cool. And this lady.
We got your temperature,
And I looked, and there's this lady behind a big monitor, and she's like, yeah, dude, come here. You got to see this. So I walked
Why is your crotch so warm?
Yeah. As people walk in, it's lighting up their faces and showing your body temperature, your radiant temperature when you walk in.
That is pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. Now, I'll tell you the shitty thing about it. If you're not considered to be super high risk, so like before you go to get your chemo, you got to have a blood test, and they check you out, and then you got to see your doctor. Mm-hmm. And find out if anything weird's going on. 90% of the time, they don't touch you beyond listening to your heart and lungs, if they even do that. Mm-hmm. They just have a conversation with you. So they're doing all this by Zoom.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
So even with like 5% of the people you normally see in MD Anderson, try to find a private place in that hospital to sit and talk to your doctor in Zoom.
Yeah, no doubt.
That was bullshit. That was the worst part. To find a place that was either quiet or there weren't all these people hanging around, and you got to talk about whatever your problem is. That everybody doesn't need to listen to. But anyway, enough of that shit.
Wow.
So.
Well,
the other thing I wanted to talk about is what is everybody doing to stay sane? So I know Mike's doing art. You got a motorcycle.
I got a motorcycle project.
You're building a screened-in porch.
I'm working on my house.
I also have been coming up with various show ideas. Stay with me on this. You guys know about my Battle of the Bands one.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I also have an online dating show now. It's Love in the Time of Corona.
I like this.
Instead of cholera.
Yeah.
I get the reference. Yeah.
Nice.
So that's my other one that I'm working on right now. So.
Well, you have been doing some fantastic artwork.
Thank
you. I tell you what frustrates me is when I have somebody close to me, a friend or a family member or whoever, who
does stuff better than you.
Is
that where you're
really-
going with this?
who is really, really good at something, especially if it's something creative and they don't get the recognition I think they deserve for it.
I was posting them on Facebook for a long time, and then I was like, that's all I'm posting lately is just art. So I kind of shifted over to just my Instagram and everything.
I've been seeing them on both.
Yeah.
And I think it's great. Instagram's all about how you tag it. It's just really, really, really good artwork. And
thank you.
And I hate that you post that to Facebook and it gets 4 likes.
Yeah, it's
Stop being dicks, everybody. But that's just kind of the way it is. People are so desensitized.
There have been I don't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead.
Keep going.
There have been a couple of artists that I kind of met just through convention circuits and things like that. That I've talked to and I've become acquaintances with. I don't know if I would really say friends just because I haven't really talked to them a whole lot, but they've come out and they're like, oh man, we really like this and you're doing a great job with this and this is really this is really cool what you're doing. And so that's been pretty
good.
That's been really kind of, I don't know what the word I'm trying to use is, but that's been
It's
great
affirming.
to kind of hear. Yeah, just to see people that I've kind of looked up to and that I've met along the art world that are saying, hey, you're doing really good, and we look forward to stuff that you put out. So
yeah, it means the most to me too, in everything I do, but especially as like a musician, that's the closest thing analogous to me. When another musician who I respect tells me something like that, it means a lot coming from anybody. But when it comes from a peer, then it really has a special significance. So I dig where you're coming from on that.
So I spent mine and Nicole's 19th anniversary. We were apart in the hospital, so I told her we're just going to delay it till later. And I commissioned a piece of art from Mike for our anniversary. I wanted a cartoon rendition of one of our best pictures
That's
together.
That's cool.
So awesome.
That is in Roslyn, Washington, where they filmed Northern Exposure.
Such a great piece.
I am very happy with that. And we were just hanging out in a little park. It's along the main street where they filmed all that. We were having a great time, and
So awesome.
I sent it to Mike, and I told him, which of his styles that I wanted it done in, and that is absolutely perfect. I have not scanned it yet. I'm interested to see if this one will pop the facial recognition like your other one did.
I'm curious.
Yeah. So she's about to frame it, and I'm gonna put it on the big bed scanner.
I think that was version 2 or 3 out of all the ones that I did. So.
Yeah, well, he gave us a bunch of the scratchings that he did, which is the stuff that I absolutely love to see from artists. Is like that.
Yeah, I was going to say
piece.
because I remember that thing, and so I was like, well,
Yeah,
take this one too,
that was
so.
my grandmother's.
Yeah.
She did that. Speaking of which, one of the things I've done is scanning old photographs and negatives and stuff in some large format. And I sent you guys those pictures, and I'll probably do a separate podcast about that. Found some really cool aviation history, gliders from back in the 60s, Rattlesnake Raceway, some stuff like that. And
A lot of great old pictures.
yeah.
I'm doing the same thing. So
Oh, yeah, I saw some of yours. In fact, I reversed one for you.
I went through about 450 slides, and I'm about 200 deep in photographs, and with another couple of 200-300 to go. So
And I found
Close to 1,000 by the time I get done.
I found a couple of packages in some of my grandparents' World War II and discharge stuff.
Oh yeah.
And so I want to bring those over and
I'll just take my.
those.
You can take my scanner.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got some 35 mil to do. I found a bunch of my old black and white stuff, and fortunately, everything that's left are in continuous rolls. They're not chopped up. Mm-hmm. So I just clean the negatives and just run it through. And once it's set, you just copy, and it does it all.
Yours turned out really good too. That one that you sent us was that your dad at a shooting competition, or is that what it was?
Yeah, and there's some other photographs that are better. When I get them done,
I want to see those.
Yeah, some good stuff. Cliff posted a picture, this old picture, and he complained about something on it, and we were having a conversation about just erosion of these old negatives, and so Tim and I are
I'm in Photoshop making color corrections. You're in.
I'm in Infinity, which is a clone of Photoshop, and we're trying to see who can put out the best one quickest.
That's a never-ending thing, because when it comes to color correction, especially on old photos, if you have enough color information to work from, it becomes an artistic endeavor. Okay, well, I can make that car more red, or I can make it more pink, or I can make the sky this color or that color, or I can clear this up, or I can blur this, and so it becomes, at a certain point, I realized, dude, I sat here and messed with you knuckleheads' photographs for like an hour and a half, and I lost track of time just because it was so much fun doing it.
Well, these were I sent you guys, those were slides. Uh-huh. And it was funny because all the slides were stored in the same box. Some of them are like they're brand new, and other ones are in horrible. Yeah. The colors are just really bad. Yeah. So, just the luck of the draw.
I wish I knew enough about slide technology and film technology to see. Like, sometimes you get a photo that's really badly blue cast. Sometimes in those old negatives and old photos are really red cast, like that one that you sent that was really, really badly blue cast. And I was like, what happens that causes this over time? I would just like to know the answer to that,
But those slides I sent you, those were from 1958. Mm-hmm. So they've been around for a while.
Well, and these negatives that I've got are probably from the late 40s to between late 40s and late 50s. And so I'm anxious to see what they look like.
Well, I showed you guys some of them that I had were large format black and white. Mm-hmm. So the negative is the size of a business card.
Oh, wow.
Those were really neat. Those are the ones of the people on the hill and that weird, I don't know, the wall thing, whatever the hell that was.
You're going to have to go through an editing and go back through that thread and put all these up. Or at least put some of them up, because everybody's going to be going, what are they talking about?
Yeah, I want to do an episode about it, because like I said, the Rattlesnake Raceway pictures and some from a bunch of old gliders from the 30s, the Albatross and some of the others. One of the things I'm going to tell you guys, these are the old gull wing gliders, the Bolus Albatross and some of those, and they're just beautiful old airplanes. One of them, it was not the Albatross. I can't remember what it was. The actual airplane in my grandmother's photograph is in the National Soaring Museum in Elmira, New York. And I emailed them and I said, hey, I got some pictures of that airplane if you guys want them. They're like,
absolutely.
That's cool.
So I sent them all those.
That is so cool.
Yeah. Did you guys see the B-1, speaking of airplanes?
Yes. It flew right over the brewery. I was like, I thought, here's another flyover.
So let me tell you what the majority of my time the last 2 weeks have been consisting of, and that's just sleep.
So you're working 2 weeks on and 2 weeks off.
2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. So I've been asleep for a lot of these last 2 weeks, and I have missed pretty much everything that's been going on.
Yeah,
I envy you that in a way.
Well, I was awake and alert and feeling good, and I can be on my feet doing stuff for 20 minutes, half hour, whatever, and then I'll sit down and chill a little bit. And I went to the bathroom, and the B1 flew over and I came out and it was gone. So that's what happened to me, because I was outside waiting for it.
It was going west to east, probably headed back to Dias. But yeah, it was a B1B, and it was at about 800 feet.
Yeah, it was
something like that, and cruising pretty slow. It's cool. I like seeing things like the Blue Angels fly over, and I like B1s, and I like the High Sky Wing of the CAF did a flight, but it's all fine. I don't know, man. It's cynical Tim kind of comes out on some of this, because I go, you know what? If you've been out of work for 2.5 months, is that supposed to make you feel better? I don't know, man. Maybe I'm being too harsh. I'm being too harsh, is what it is. I'm just.
Oh, dude, that's me. I've had to ask my wife, am I just crazy because I think this whole mask thing is stupid?
Am I just being a jerk?
Yeah. So.
And my wife's answer is always yes. Yeah, you're being a jerk. That's what you do.
Would you let me finish the question first?
I do have a sleep story, though.
Lay it on me.
This,
I'll take it.
Okay, so the other night, I'm laying in bed. It's probably 2 or 3 in the morning, and it's my room is unusually dark, because I'll have like little electronic things here that'll have some kind of light on them. It'll light up the room, but for whatever reason that room was very dark that night. And as I'm laying there, kind of half asleep, half awake, I start feeling something tugging at my blanket. So it's like it's trying to pull the blanket off of me from the foot of the bed, so just kind of yanking it off.
It's El Cocuy.
And so I'm there, yeah,
La Llorona,
and I'm gripping onto it, and I'm trying to pull it back up to my chest, up to my chin, and the blanket's being pulled, and then I can feel the blanket being pulled up and off of me. So it's like someone standing at the foot of the bed trying to like pull it out, and I'm trying to say something, but I can't talk because you're in that sleep mode.
Paralysis.
Yeah, it's that sleep paralysis. And I'm trying to say something, but I can't get anything out. And I finally slur out, stop. And as soon as I do, it's like they take the blanket and yank it to the side. And so my leg gets pulled off of the bed. And it keeps, it's pulled. It's the same direction. It keeps getting pulled. And then I finally managed to slur out, stop, and everything ends. And so my leg's hanging off the bed. I'm laying there. I still can't talk. I can't move. And I finally start to relax and kind of regain control. And I pull the blanket and I kind of roll over to my side so I can pull my leg back onto the bed. And then I'm just kind of laying there, and like my arms kind of just tense, I guess. And my heart's kind of racing. And then the room is kind of, it doesn't have that dark, feel to it. It doesn't feel uncomfortable anymore. And I fell asleep after that.
You fell asleep after that?
Wow.
It was a
so
while.
There went my corner on the paranormal part of the conversation.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was a little bit. I was there kind of freaking out. I was like, I don't know if I should just go sleep in the living room or what I should do. But
I'm waiting for the punchline.
That's some straight up.
I'm waiting for the punchline.
Poltergeist.
And it turns out he went sleep.
Yeah. wait. Here's
it was a poltergeist. We had coffee. I went to sleep.
It was weird, but here's the thing about it. The episode, my last episode of the podcast that I do, the year was, for everyone that wants to know that, it's on Apple Cider Club.
Yeah.
The last episode that I did as of like today was about the appearance of the Virgin Mary.
Oh yeah.
In Portugal.
Yeah,
and that was the night I released it that morning. That night is when everything happened.
Dude.
So that's pretty weird.
Yeah, I would say so.
That's exceptionally. Yeah, I don't have dreams that vivid. Never have.
So I don't know what it was. If my house is haunted, if it was just sleep paralysis, if my mind was just. I don't know how my leg ended up off the bed though. It's the thing, because like I said, it was like yanked off of the bed.
I like to think it was something at least mildly supernatural.
Yeah.
It's just fun to think that.
I'd like to think there's a Travel Channel series in your future.
Yeah, there you go, man. This needs to happen to you in a hotel or a restaurant.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the one. Yeah.
But it was weird. I called up my sister and I was telling her about this. And I said, yeah, it was just weird because going to bed that night, everything just felt uncomfortable and off, and like everything was just too dark. And after I was able to tell it to stop, everything went back to normal.
Dude.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I have been known to put black tape over the little electronic lights in my bedroom because they irritate me.
Yeah, and I have been known to. I sleep with the television on all the time, which is probably not a good thing. But so that gets into my dreams pretty constantly.
Yeah.
I
have to do the sleep
if
timer.
the TV was on, I would just be awake all night.
All of a sudden I'm making fish in the Ronco fish baker with my ex-landlord.
Well, see, that's not even the only time something like this has
because it's
happened for me.
infomercials all night.
Yeah.
Yep.
Never mind.
I'm with you.
That was
I liked
a
it.
horribly failed joke.
I was
that
putting
was
it all
pretty bad.
together. It's
I'm
good.
sorry.
It was
That
was
one's
bad.
still soaking in, man.
Yeah.
It's still-
You'll laugh later.
There was another one.
I don't think so.
I was laying on my side
Dick.
in my bedroom, and I was looking towards the door, and I could see like it was a child-sized white figure, and I couldn't move.
Racist.
I couldn't talk. Yeah, I was waiting for someone to say that. I couldn't move. I couldn't talk, and then all of a sudden it like rushed me, and it was like it was running towards the bed, and as soon as it hit me, it like disappeared, and I was able to move again.
You've got to start drinking, dude.
So
Wow.
Wow, that's crazy,
no
man.
more melatonin for his.
Yeah.
Yeah. That melatonin will do it.
Holy
Without
crap.
freaking standing.
Yeah, well, that's
crazy stuff.
Makes my motorcycle stuff sound boring by comparison.
Yeah, how's that
about his
going, by the way?
motorcycle.
I want to know about that.
Yeah, so, well, you know a lot about it because it used to be your bike. And
Well, yeah, I got the bike from a friend of Cliff's, and I kept it for a while. And then I decided it's an older bike. It's 1980, and I had another 1980. This is a touring bike. I had that 1980 sport bike, and then I thickly woke up one morning and I thought, man, I like riding motorcycles better than I do working on them. Cliff had gotten his FJR, so I got the C14, and I sold it to JR, and he kept it for a while, and now he sold it to you, and it's going to be a rat.
it's going to be, I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do with it yet, but I see why you had to fiddle with it so much because certain things are a mess, namely the wiring. I'm going through the wiring right now, and I'm removing all of the touring stuff.
Yeah.
So it's going to be more of a muscle bike / cafe
That'll clean
bike.
up the wiring in itself.
Right,
there.
and the wiring that counts is fine. Well, first of all the wiring does work, but I would question whether or not it would work all the time because of the way it's all wired together.
Number one problem I had with the
bike.
with all of them.
Okay, yeah. Well, so it's a 1980 GS 1000. It is a classic muscle bike from the day. But what happened was, I think I've nailed down that it is a Tucker Rocky aftermarket dealer touring package that was put on that with the Vetter Windjammer fairing and saddlebags and a top box and that weird framework that holds it all together on the back. The problem is the way all of that stuff was wired in, it caused some problems. And number one, that stator system, it can't run all those lights. That thing had more lights on it. It looked like a chicken truck from the back.
Yeah.
And so my main thing right now is I'm going through the electrical, making sure everything works, and everything's working now. And then when I get to a point where I start stripping it down, I'm going to get rid of all the superfluous wiring.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm doing. And I'm waiting on mechanical parts. So I got the last of the parts for the carburetor and the stuff that I need to clean the tank. So hopefully this coming week I'll get it running, and it should run fine. But my biggest challenge on that bike is going to be the electrical. So I did go through the ignition part of the electrical, and it all seems like it's 100%. Assuming the stator hasn't been overtaxed and the battery system hasn't been overtaxed by all the extra lighting and that sort of thing, it should be fine. But the main thing is I'm just going to get it down to, it's going to have a headlight and a tail light, with a brake light and 2 high beams, and then the instrument lighting. That's the only lighting that's going to be on it. No turn signal. It doesn't need turn signals. It's an antique motorcycle and that sort of thing. Anyway, it's coming along fine, and I'm expecting to fire it up this week and take it for a little test ride. And then once I confirm that everything sounds good, the engine sounds good, the top end, bottom end sound good, it's making power, it's got compression, all of that kind of stuff. And then at that point, I'm going to bring it back and I'm going to tear it into a million pieces. I'm going to take it down to the frame, repaint everything, and turn it into turn it into a muscle bike.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Man.
Mm-hmm. How many miles is on that bike?
It's showing 42,000. So I'm thinking, I was going to ask you, when you took it to Mike Long right before you got rid of it, before you handed it off to JR, you said he did some stuff, and I was going to see if he did a valve check on that bike.
Yeah, the valves were done.
Okay, so the valves were done. Okay, so the valves are going to be in spec, and so I'll listen real close to the top end.
It ran really really nicely, and it just took like all those old Suzukis with sort of aged electrical systems. It just took a strong battery,
right?
As long as the battery was fresh, there's no problem.
Okay.
As soon as the battery gets the least bit shitty, you're pushing it.
Well, and there are a few things I haven't done. I have not checked. I haven't tested the regulator rectifier yet. The starter solenoid works fine. All the major ignition components are working. The plugs all look good. I pulled the pulse cover off. Everything looks good in there. I rotated the engine at the pulse cover, and it rotates just fine, just like you would think it would have been running last week or whatever. So I feel like it's a really strong motorcycle. It's just now everything's ramping back up. I got to find the time, and I haven't been making any money for the last couple of months, so I'm not going to go dump a whole bunch of money into it right now.
I'll tell you what, brother.
But it's going to be badass when I'm done with it. Yeah.
We had this conversation the other day. I'm the first one in 3 generations to not be in the oil industry in my family. And I have plenty of regrets about my career choice. And, we've had this conversation over and over, law enforcement. It's useless to become an expert if you're not politically in line, and I feel like I wasted a lot of training and energy to say, ask Matt, he's an expert in this. Yeah, here's what you do. Oh, we're not going to do that. You're full of shit. It's that kind. We're going to do the exact opposite and hope for a different. Anyway.
I have documented proof of them doing the opposite of what I told them. So I know what you're coming from.
But when this kind of shit happens, and I'm still getting the same pension check with no problem, I don't regret it. And so...
Well, and my wife and I had the same conversation. It's that, she's retired and we have her full pension coming in. So that has made everything very easy. I mean, we're squared away. We don't have any debt or anything like that. So we could have weathered this storm for a long time. But the fact that she's retired and has a pension coming in no matter what has made this really a breeze for us.
Another conversation that Cliff and I had, we were just talking about the political twists and turns of all this, much like we were at the first of the podcast. And I said, you know what I'm going to do, man? I'm going to apply the metric that everybody else uses, right? And the filter, right? So, people have the filter of we need to sew everything up and let the government take care of us and, dole out money and wait for a cure and, to hell with it. And then we have the ones that it's all a conspiracy theory. There really is no disease and just French kiss everybody in line next to you. We'll be fine. Mm-hmm. So here's my filter. It's like my immediate little world right in front of me is that I'm already having health problems. I can't get out much anyway, the way it has been. And I've got a completely hot woman wearing very little clothing, working in the home office all the time. Why the hell would I want anything to change? So, bring it on. It's like I've got a babe in a bathrobe that, she might put on a shirt if she's got a conference, teleconference. But why the hell would I want to change anything, man? This is a good deal for me. So
right on.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, I'm ready to hang out and got some snacks. We'll drink a couple more beers and catch up.
Okay.
And hey, man, thanks, guys. Sorry we've been slow on content. I'm gonna try to put out some short stuff and have a good time with it and some history things. And I've got a lot of stuff scratched out. So
It's just nice to have all four of us
yeah,
together again.
it's good to have the crew
It's
together.
been a little while.
Yeah.
You haven't been able to come to our Wednesday night Murray's because of traveling to Houston and all that and being sick.
Yeah. I was sick before that, and
So,
then in Houston. So
yeah,
all that sucks. But cool, gentlemen.
good times.
Enjoyed it.
Cheers, boys.
I got an empty glass.
Oh,
We'll make this happen. Cliff's
clink.
got to lick the bowl. Cheers, folks. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Give us a like and a subscribe.
yeah.
Good Corona.